Hey guys, Phil Baumhardt here. So for today's video, won't actually be forging anything. My wrist doesn't feel 100% yet. I don't want to risk re-aggravating my my tendonitis, so I'm trying to let it heal fully before I do any blacksmithing. I've been doing some stock removal, and I seem to be getting by all right with that as long as I'm careful. That's why I'm wearing the brace and all that. So I think I'm close to being healed, but I don't want to, you know, try to use it too soon, as I have been doing. But for today's video, I'll be building a short sword. So this is going to be stock removal. This is basically the pattern, the design I've come up with. So this is a custom order essentially for a cake knife. So there's a couple getting married. This is going to be a gift to them, hopefully to use on their wedding day to cut the cake. So they're kind of looking for a medieval fantasy D&D inspired sword. So I don't really have any exact parameters, just something sort of fantasy, something I thought was cool. So that it was fun for me to come up with my own design. So this is what I got. And they didn't want anything too big. They didn't want like an actual sword. So, you know, for some of you guys, this is just a big knife, but you know, short sword, big knife, whatever. So essentially the design is going to be a Greek XIPHOS, more or less, the hoplite sword. And then for the handle, I'm going to do kind of a kinjal style of handle, so there won't be a pommel per se. This will be full tang with just full wood handles, a couple of large rivets right here. And then for the hilt, it's kind of inspired from the swords in some of the Hellboy graphic novels by Mike Mignola. He's always kind of got this big V shape and these curls here. So I'm thinking I'm going to have this sort of design go into a fuller. I don't know. We'll play around with it, see how it goes. But yeah, basically leaf-shaped blade. Proportions are going to be very similar to a XIPHOS. You know, kinjal handle, and then a Hellboy guard. So if you guys are hoping for more blacksmithing, sorry to disappoint, but got to do what I got to do. So if you want to stick around, you can see me make a cake sword. All right, so first thing we're going to do is trace out our pattern onto our steel. So hopefully from drawing out the pattern like this, I've already kind of got my basic symmetry laid out. Doesn't have to be perfect because since I'm grinding this out, I'm going to have to eyeball it anyways. So widest part is right about here. Right about here, so it'll taper, and then from there on it just sort of tapers all the way back down here, flares out in that kind of Mignola hilt. Center up our handle. So my idea was that right here we kind of maximize our 2 inches wide, and up here in the blade. I don't really like wasting a lot of steel. It's really not a big deal. 80 CRV2 isn't particularly expensive. That's just how my blade works, or that's just how my brain works sometimes. But I've only got about a week to finish this, so another good reason to just sort of try to bust it out with stock removal. All right, so we got the profile all cleaned up. So next thing I'm going to do is work on the guard. I'm going to do kind of a 4-piece type guard. I've got this 1/4 inch mild steel that's going to kind of come out in a V shape. This is cut extra long, but on either side we're going to have that piece of mild steel. I'm going to grind basically a step down so that the two pieces will butt up against each other on either side, and I'll just weld the 4 pieces together. So we'll give it a shot, see what happens. Alright, so hopefully now you can kind of see what I was talking about. So I ground out that step down, cut it at an angle. So I have 4 of these things, so the idea is that they will just butt weld the 2 slabs together, weld up the joint, and then hopefully it'll fit on the knife. I've got it all lined up on the magnet. There's enough magnetism that it kind of holds it all upright. I got this clamped in the vise so it doesn't pull it over, so I'm just gonna have to try quick tack weld just to see if I can get it all together, and we'll go from there. So I know this is pretty ragtag welding, and we'll have to, yeah, we had it lined up, but then it, you know, as this stuff heats up, it shifts around. But let's just see how it fits on the knife. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay. So it doesn't lock in there, but that's you can see that. Yeah, that's it. So I'm gonna chop this down quite a bit, but that will do what we need it to do. So we'll get a full weld on this guard, and then it'll be over to the grinder. Alright, so I gotta let this cool before I can start grinding it to shape. But you can see right there, that's about what we're looking for. So we'll be able to get it on there. That's the main thing. I will end up having to tack weld this on, but that's okay. It's just meant for cut and case. Okay, so here's what the guard looks like on the sword. I'm happy with the proportions and all of that. I obviously made it way too long initially, but I wanted to make sure I had enough material, and I don't want to cut myself short. I wasn't sure how this fit-up job was going to go. I do have the guard shaped the way I like. It's going to fit up on there nicely. Obviously, I got to weld this into place, so we'll do that after heat treatment. I'll probably end up brassing this. I'll have to do a little bit more polishing on it before I do that, but this is pretty much good to go. So next thing I'll do now is grind the fuller. So this is going to be kind of a floating fuller, so we'll start somewhere up here, and it'll stop somewhere in this region. I haven't actually done a floating fuller like this before, where it stops before the guard, because that is not really historically accurate. Historically speaking, fullers would go all the way through past the guard, but this is a fantasy sword, so I don't need to do that. So we'll try doing the fuller, see how that goes, and then move on to the edge bevels. So I've got that V-notch in this handle material carved out, so it gives a place for the guard to sit. So now I can trace this out. You can see the guard is going to fit in the handle, and I'll be able to shape that to size, trim that down. So I just got to make sure that this is lined up properly when I drill the holes, that I'll be able to really lock it in. So I'll cut this out and cut out the other side, the other handle scale. Okay, so here's where I'm at with the handle. Guard super loose, so it just slides all the way down, but so it'll nest in there just like that. Got some 1/4-inch pins. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of get a rough shaping of this grip on. So there we go. Handle shaped up. Probably ended up thinning it down a little more than it was initially, but it feels good. There's our balance point. So the full tang helps balance it all out. So that's pretty good. Doesn't feel overly heavy. I think I'd like to do a little more polishing on the blade before heat treatment. I'd also like to do the little curly Q, Hellboy engravings on the ricasso here, and we'll get it in the forge. I'll put them on maker's mark, do the quench and temper. Okay, so I'm working on the ricasso engravings here, and I got them marked out with the Sharpie. And what I'm using here is just a little, this is a tool I made, engraving tool I made out of a scrap of 80 CRV2. Brought to a little point here. This is really my first time using it on a blade. So you can see I already did one. It seems to be working out pretty good. So I could use a Dremel for this, but I was hoping to get a little bit more kind of cleaner curves out of this, and we'll see how it goes. So that one didn't come out nearly as smooth as the first one, but we'll see if I can clean this up a little bit. Yeah, first one looks pretty good, and then that second one really messed it up. A lot of straight lines and slip-offs there, so it's deeper though, so I was probably going at it with a little too much gusto. Alright, well here's what our engraving is looking like. That's probably about the best I'm going to be able to do, but sanding it It was like a 60 grit sandpaper or whatever. That kind of just helped get rid of some of the really bad blemishes. But you know, for the first time doing it, not bad. I think it'll work for this particular build. Got the blade polished up a little bit more, ground a little bit of a fuller into the grip there, reduce some of the weight, give the glue a place to go. So we'll throw it in the forge. I'll get a maker's mark in there, and then we'll quench this. So the quenching the blade went well. It's tempering in the oven right now, so while that's doing its thing, I got my guard here. I'm going to go ahead and do some brassing on it. So we'll get this in the forge and get some golden goodness on it. Alrighty, here's what the sword's looking like. So the blade finished tempering, soaked in vinegar, went over it with the wire wheel to knock off all the fire scale and gunk, so we're left with just the steel. It does have a patina on it. Kind of looks like it's an age-worn blade with stains of blood and battle on it. I don't know if that's really the look I'm going for, but I might end up having to just polish all the edge bevels, but we will see. But next thing, you know, we got our brass guard finished. It's cooled down. It's looking good. So now I need to weld this guard in place, and I think I might try doing a little bit of a tack weld with the handle on there, so that I know that it's going to fit up there. Because I don't want to wrestle these handles off and then have the guard shift, and then stuff doesn't line up, and I'm fighting that. So, because I got to do that before I can glue on the handle slabs. Alright, so I got the knife and the vise. Handle's going to help hold it in place. I really just need a tack weld at the very corner there, and I'll get the other side, and then I'll take the wooden handles off, do a complete weld. Then I'm going to have to clean it all up and then rebrass that area. Alright, you can see what our welds are looking like. Pretty blobby and bad. So we'll see if we can get that cleaned up, and then I'll have to hit it with the torch again and rebrass it. And hopefully that all goes well.